Okay, everything that I know about weight loss, let's get straight into it. If you want to know my credentials or why I think I'm qualified to talk about this topic, I'll stick it in the description. But I want to get straight into it, I don't want to waste too much time. So I'm going to cover 4 things: mentality, diet, exercise, sleep and stress. I've put sleep and stress into one. That's not because they're not important. They are, if anything, maybe even the most important, or definitely up there. But I just think that they're the ones that people find the hardest to change, especially when they're focusing on so many other things. So I've put them in one category, and I'll touch upon that a little bit later. Before I start and go straight into mentality, one thing I would advise anybody who's looking to lose weight and looking for people to give them advice or people to help them is to make sure you find someone that's open-minded. Anybody that says this is the only way to do something, anybody that says, anybody that quotes like scientific research and says like because it's in a paper that means that it is an absolute, I'd be weary of. I think that whenever you try, including myself, whenever I try and progress in my knowledge in the weight loss industry, I'm always trying to be as open-minded as possible and to learn. I'm also very aware that just because something is backed by science doesn't mean that there isn't a million other papers that can either refute it or that something might come out later on that refutes it. And I think you have to be open-minded, and it really comes down to why you have to tailor things to individuals, because something that works for one person won't necessarily work for another person. But what I've tried to do in this video and this advice is to really just go over key concepts that I feel work for the majority of people and the majority of the time. So if there's something in here that you think, oh, that didn't work for me, yeah, maybe it didn't, and maybe you're the exception to the rule. That's just something to bear in mind, but let's jump straight into it. So let's go straight into mentality. And the reason why I put this first is I'm going to cover 3 things about mentality, but I think it's really, really important to think about mentality when you go into something like weight loss, because I think so much of weight loss is psychological. I think we jump too quick into diet, exercise, give me a plan, get me on my way, without thinking about how we're approaching our lives, our identities. And so I'm going to cover 3 things in mentality. The first one being priority. We'll discuss that in a second. The second being adherence, and then the last one being expectations. I think a lot of the time when we think about weight loss, we think about priority being like, I'm now going to take on this really big thing. I'm going to upheave my whole life, and a lot of the time, weight loss becomes a part of an overall large-scale change in multiple aspects of your life. So people will think, we're just about in the middle of the month now, so we're just coming in out of the new year, but New Year is a really common time for this, right? So people think, oh, I'm gonna lose weight, I'm gonna get fitter, I'm gonna try this skill, I'm gonna work on being less messy, I'm going to try and improve, do a side hustle, or optimize the way that I work, or I want to get a new job, and they try and fit in a lot of things at once. They want to start running, they want to start exercising more, they want to get fitter and stronger, they want to lose weight, they want to eat healthy, they want to be more productive, they want to pick up a new skill, they want to read more books. And it's really common for weight loss to kind of become a side dish in that. And I think that that's dangerous, because it's very easily, it becomes very easy for that to just become part of an overall failure of, that one domino falls and then they all kind of fall. And I think weight loss, whilst I don't agree with the whole sort of monk mode, like batten down the hatches and go super strict. There's a place for that for some people doing certain things, but I think in general, if you want to be successful in losing weight and maintaining that weight loss, because that's actually the most important thing. It's actually relatively simple to lose weight for the next 6 weeks or 8 weeks. I think most people can live an uncomfortable existence for a short period of time in order to do that. But actually the trick is maintaining weight, and that's really apparent in the statistic that 95% of people will, who have lost weight in a diet or in any sort of change, will gain that weight back within 2 years. So really the key is maintaining weight loss. When we talk about weight loss, it's about how do I maintain that, and the only way to do that is sustainably. So I don't agree with this monk mode, batten down the hatches, upheave everything. I don't want any junk food and no alcohol, no sugar. I'm going to exercise 5 days a week, and there's a lot of things like this at the moment. 75 hard. There's a lot of different programs that will encourage this. There's so many weight loss programs are 60 days, 90 days, And I'm not saying that that's not necessarily right for you at this point in time. Maybe you are at that point. But in general, in my experience treating people, especially living with obesity, who have a long way to go in their weight loss journey, you have to make it sustainable. Having said that, it still does have to be a priority. Losing weight is still something that you have to actively work towards and think about. That might mean that you have to pay attention to your grocery shopping or thinking about what you're going to order, what you're going to buy this week, and the food that you're going to cook. It might mean that you actively think about your movement, getting in steps. It may mean that you actively think about your environment, who's around you, are they supporting you, a whole number of different things, but it is a priority. And I wouldn't advise that someone start to embark on a serious weight loss journey whilst they're also trying to do other things. So if you're revising for an exam for the next 6 weeks, or if you're trying to get a new job, or if you're trying to learn a really difficult skill, you're prioritizing that for the next however long, then I wouldn't say that you should throw this in as well. You can do that once you've got to a place where you are like kind of in a maintenance phase where you find weight loss, you've picked up a lot of skills, you've changed the way that you live your life, and then you're almost losing, you may still be losing weight, but the effort that's required to do that becomes easier and easier and less, and then I think it's absolutely fine to start adding in other things. But right now, weight loss has to be your number one priority. That doesn't mean it's going to be ridiculously hard and that you have to go down into your cave and not see anybody and never go out for dinner and never have a social interaction again. It just means that you do have to make it a priority, and it's not the right time if you have any other major priorities in life. And then the next thing, adherence. So I kind of split this up even further. So I put it down to inspiration, motivation, and willpower, and covering sort of, it all comes under how do you stick to something. It's in the umbrella term of adherence. How do I stick to this? And the first thing I think is inspiration. So I think it is harder to do things alone, and it's really common. I think it's just human nature for a lot of us to want to do things alone. We don't want to ask for help. We don't want to tell people what we're doing, because if we fail, then there's an element of you have to admit to that failure. And so people just like to do things alone, and actually it makes things harder. Having someone who holds you accountable or who does things with you, be it your partner, other half, whoever lives at home with you, joining you in a new diet or a new way of eating, or someone who goes to the gym with you or moves with you, just someone that is encouraging you, because there are going to be times where you don't feel like doing something, you don't feel like eating a certain way, you don't feel like going to the gym, you don't feel like exercising, and you need people around you who are going to encourage you and say that, look, you've done really well, or like, don't give up. And it doesn't have to be it doesn't have to be a friend, it doesn't have to be someone that you know. It could even be just like finding that from somewhere. It could be watching someone tell you about weight loss, or keep you going, or giving you stories or anecdotes about why you're doing well, or how to keep you on track. It could be anything. It could be listening to podcasts about it. But you need something or someone who's going to kind of keep you accountable, keep you on track, remind you of it. Weight loss is, for me, successful weight loss, as I discussed earlier, is to make it sustainable, is a kind of identity shift. It's a change in mindset. It's a change in the way that you think. And an identity shift isn't something that you can just do overnight, and it isn't something that is going to be free from hurdles and mistakes and losses and setbacks. And so you have to kind of almost always be in it or around it or understand it, and that only really comes from kind of exposing yourself daily to it. And you either need someone to do that, or you need to be listening or around people that are talking about it, so that you feel like you are involved and part of it. The lone wolf journey lasts usually a couple of months before you just kind of it's a lot easier, put it this way, it's a lot easier to give up at the first or second hurdle. So that's my first thing of adherence, inspiration. Second thing is motivation. So we discussed motivation obviously a little bit in inspiration. You want someone to motivate you, but when I say motivation with this, I actually mean, what is your driving factor? So I think we need to be realistic in that for a lot of people, the way we look is the driving factor around weight loss. As a doctor, I often kind of want it to be a health related thing. I want people to feel like their inspiration is that they want to be healthier, but even the research shows that the number one reason people want to lose weight is that they want to look better, is aesthetics. And the second reason is actually mobility. So a lot of people, especially living with obesity, will struggle with movement, or their knees and joints, and give them issues, and they struggle to go upstairs, things like that. And so the second biggest reason is actually mobility. They want to be more mobile and be able to move freely. And then the third reason is actually health, reducing disease and chances of having comorbidities and disease later on in life. I kind of wish it was the other way around, because I think that anyone who's had a near miss or near event, or a really big health worry, a small heart attack, or being told that their cholesterol is super high, or having to start on medication, will tell you that it does become a thing that can motivate you. And I do just feel, when I say motivation, I do really mean like, what is your individual goals? What are people's goals? If your goal is, and it's absolutely fine for your goal to be aesthetic. It's absolutely fine to want to look a different way, feel a different way, wear different clothes. I think that's normal and human, and I think there's a lot to say for wanting that, because it does relate to your mental state and how you feel and your confidence and how you kind of come across as a person. But I think when you set goals, if it's purely just like a number on a scale, generally I've found in my experience that most people fail quicker when it's just a number on a scale. I just want to get down from X amount of kilos to Y amount of kilos. Superficial numerical goal to give up, or it not really having any value. Whereas intrinsic goals, even if it is just, I just want to feel better on myself, I want to be able to wear the clothes that I want. I don't want to go into a supermarket or a store. I don't want to go into a clothing store and have to look at items of clothing that may suit my figure or physique. I want to be able to wear whatever I want. Or if it's, I want to be slimmer so that I can, ride the rides with my child, or play with my children, or it could be anything, but it's something that kind of holds more intrinsic value to yourself. Something where it's not that in 2 weeks' time I can say I'm off track because haven't lost 1 kilo a week since I started. Usually, in my experience, means that you will have a better chance of sustaining that weight loss. You have a more meaningful, I guess, goal that you are working towards in your weight loss journey, and that seems to work a lot better for most people. So that's adherence. So that's not adherence. We've still got willpower, and I put willpower in because I think we have relied on willpower forever as an explanation of why we fail in diets and in weight loss. So people usually try to upheave their whole diet. They try and eat a completely different way, and usually when they fail, it's blamed on willpower, that their lack of willpower. But your body will respond to the way that you eat in a certain way, which is going to make you think that it was actually willpower, but it's actually kind of like your hormonal response, the response to your body fighting against you in a certain way. And I think what we need to do is we need to let go of this idea of it's my willpower that is going to keep me losing weight, because willpower just will not last forever, and we need to lower that barrier. The journey is not easy, but it shouldn't be that it's so painful that you're relying on sheer force of will to keep you going, because that is just not going to last. I mean, like I said earlier, we have a really, really high capacity for being uncomfortable for like shorter periods of times, but not for longer periods of times. And the goal is not to be slim in 8 weeks' time, 10 weeks' time, 16 weeks' time. The goal is to be able to easily maintain a healthy weight forever. And you cannot just rely on willpower for that. There's elements of it in certain points and periods, especially at the beginning, especially when you're adjusting to something, especially as your body starts losing weight, that it's just like, it's just fact almost, like that's just how the body works, and you will find that. And there's ways of dealing with that. But if it's sheer willpower that's driving you forward, and with it by third or fourth week in your weight loss journey, you're just relying on willpower, and you're like, I will by sheer force of will, David Goggins style, do this. Not many people will be able to do that. If you can, great. I just feel like you're the exception to the rule. So for most people, willpower is not the thing to rely on. And then the last thing in mentality is progress. So I really want people, and it kind of just links back to what I just said, but I want people to let go of this idea of a setback meaning you failed. People look at scales so often and then will say, I've not lost weight and this is not working, I'm miserable, this is rubbish, it's not for me, I can't do it. It's just, they will convince themselves that they can't lose weight because of their genetics, because of their willpower, their bone structure. It'll be a million different things, and it's usually the more and more you try and lose weight as you get older in life, the easier it is to say that a setback just means that I can't do it. And we're really good at finding excuses as humans as well, and finding a reason to stop doing something, especially when we're not used to it, or we've had so much failure before, or not much success. And so I just want to let go of this idea of like there is even a way of giving up. Like there is no giving up. Like we're just going to try. We are going to work towards just being a different person, almost in our mentality, thinking differently. We will identify as someone who eats healthily, who's got vitality, who's fit and healthy, and not someone that is trying something difficult for 8 weeks. You really have to make that shift. And so it's not a case of I'm going to do this for the next 8 weeks, I'm going to do this for the next 6 months. It's a case of I will want to live like this, and I'm not going to be deterred by a number on a scale. It doesn't matter, even if the number on scales are not telling me what I want to see. I choose to live like this. And when you can get to that point in time, chances of sustainable, successful weight loss just through the roof, go up. And so, yeah, that's kind of like, that sums up mentality. The whole point with mentality is we are shifting our identity, the way that we think, who we are almost. And we're going to do that forever, not just for the next 2-3 months of the year. Otherwise, you will just be back. We all will just be back to where we started in a year's time, or 2 years' time. So that is mentality, and let's move on to diet. Okay, diet. It is a huge section, the biggest by far, way bigger than exercise, which I'll come to in a little bit. When covering diet, I mean, there's almost too much to cover in like one go. I think I've kind of split it into theory versus practicality. So with theory, there is a lot of information about diet and how it contributes to weight loss, about calories in versus out, generally about calories. There's so much information online. Most of it is actually just wrong. I mean, there's so much misinformation. It's crazy, and I'm not going to cover that. I think I'll do other videos where I talk about or react to maybe people giving information about weight loss where it's just plain wrong. But there's a lot that's right. But even then, the theory of correct, something might be absolutely correct in theory about weight loss, but that doesn't mean practically it's feasible. And I think you can only work that out by being someone that either helps people lose weight and understands their journey and finds out from them in real time, in real life, and gets those anecdotes to work out how much of that theory is actually useful in real life. So I'm going to do a theory versus practicality, kind of like the key theoretical concepts of weight loss that people will tell you versus how it actually is in real life, and why that may not work for you, why it may work for you. Because I think theory is not always doable. It's like if I say, in theory, you can not use your smartphone, right? And that's theoretically that is 100% true, because up until about like 20 years ago, no one used a smartphone ever. That didn't even exist, and we all went about our business absolutely fine. But realistically, practically, you're not going to. If I just say, stop using your smartphone because it's bad for you, theoretically you can do that. For sure, right? You can do that. And if I held a gun to your head, you could as well. But you're not going to, because it's very convenient not to. And so I think that's kind of where a lot of theory, that's kind of where a lot of information about weight loss just gets lost, in that it's not actually that doable. So let's get straight into it. So I've covered 3 things with theory. The first one, and these are all correct. So these are all correct theories. The first one being energy balance. So calories in versus calories out is the holy grail of weight loss, and that is correct. I mean, weight loss is, you have to be in a calorie deficit to lose weight. So calories in versus calories out is correct. It's a correct theory. We'll get to the practicality in a bit, but it is correct theory. If you burn more calories than you consume, you will lose weight. If you don't, especially over a set period of time, if you don't, you will gain weight, and that is a thermodynamic law. You can't put more fuel in than your body expends and hope that you will lose weight. You just won't. The second theory, is that all diets are essentially a form of a calorie deficit. So usually it could be ketogenic diet, intermittent fasting, which isn't really a diet, but intermittent fasting, a way of eating. It could be the Atkins diet, the paleo diet, whatever it may be. They are all a form of calorie restriction, and that is true. So if you eliminate a whole macronutrient, you're essentially just making it much easier to reduce your calories. That doesn't mean that you can't overeat on those diets. You absolutely can. So anybody that says, you know, this way of eating is it theoretically will help you lose weight just because of the way of eating, you're just restricting calories. That's it. Like that's how you lose weight. So intermittent fasting, for example, essentially is a fancy name for skipping breakfast, or I mean, officially you're eating within a window. You can gain weight on intermittent fasting by just eating a lot in that window. It doesn't in itself cause you to lose weight. There are other benefits to it outside of weight loss, which I'm not going to cover in this video, but as a way of losing weight, it will work because you are restricting the time that you can eat, and so in theory, you are increasing the likelihood that you won't eat as much in that window because you haven't got it. You know, if you only can eat between 12 and 6 p.m., you can overeat, but you probably won't because you'll be very full, and so, you know, if you ate a lot, it'll be difficult, but you can do it. I've done it. I've done intermittent fasting and gained weight by eating too much in that window, and it definitely doesn't work for anyone. So that's another example, but essentially all diets are helping you create a calorie deficit. And then the last theory, which is a huge one at the moment online, and I've seen it in massive, big like YouTubers and fitness influencers, and really common, is you can eat whatever you want and still lose weight. And again, in theory, that's absolutely right. You can technically eat whatever you want as long as you are in a calorie deficit, and you will lose weight. And this is the biggest theory versus practicality. In theory, that is absolutely correct. Practically, for most of you watching this, listening to this, it's not going to work. And I'll explain why, but it's just not going to work. And I think a lot of the time, people follow fitness influencers who have kind of spent their whole life being athletic, and never really had to lose weight or dealt with weight loss, and they're more sort of exercise based and fitness based and muscle building based, and people follow their diet advice. And if you've never really been someone who struggled to lose weight, or at least worked with a lot of people who've struggled to lose weight, you just won't really understand it. And they'll tell you that you can eat whatever you want as long as you are, you might have heard of things like if it fits your macros, or as long as you are in a calorie deficit, you can count the calories, as long as you're in deficit you will lose weight. And you will. I mean, the theory works, but in practicality, going back to the mentality section where it talks about doing this forever, it won't work. And I'll get into why now. So practically, a few things I want to cover before we then get into the solutions and what I think you should do. Almost all diets will fail at some point, and that's because it's not the diet itself that fails. Most diets help you lose weight, but most diets fail because people can't maintain them. So I think I quoted a statistic earlier, 95% of people that lose weight on a diet will gain that weight back within 2 years. It's just because they're not sustainable. Diets in themselves, almost every diet works. I mean, if I told you to eat less for the next 6 weeks, which is, as we've discussed, what every diet is, a form of calorie deficit, you will lose weight. You'll lose weight, but you just won't keep it up because in varying degrees, most diets are uncomfortable in varying degrees. Some are ridiculously uncomfortable and difficult to maintain, and some are not so bad, and obviously those ones you have more of a chance. But it's a mentality thing as well. So and the example I always give is, I was working in hospital a few years ago in the radiology department. We were waiting for a scan to happen. There was a bunch of us in a dark room, just kind of watching through the window. And somebody brought out a packet of biscuits and offered it to their colleague. And oh, do you want a biscuit? And the colleague said, "Oh, not for me. I'm on a diet." I kind of immediately thought that just means, it's really judgy, but at that point I was like, that person's not going to be successful in the long term, because the way they're thinking is, I'm on a diet right now, so I can't eat that biscuit, but it just implies that one day they won't be on the diet, and so then they can eat the biscuit. So you're literally telling yourself, I will eat like this now, but one day I won't. And so I'll lose that. What you're basically saying to yourself is, I will lose weight whilst I'm doing this now, but the minute I stop, I'm going to go back to how I used to eat before, so you're going to gain the weight back. And that is essentially what a diet is. And I'm not saying that you don't have to change the way that you eat to lose weight. You do, but it has to be part of an overall change in the way that you live your life. If you are doing a diet for a certain period of time and it has an end date, or it's so uncomfortable that it ends because you can't keep it up, you're going to gain the weight back. So So that almost all diets do fail. And as I discussed earlier, the second thing is we will blame it most of the time on willpower. So as an example, people will go on, let's say, an extremely low carb or no carb diet. They'll just suddenly do it January 1st or January 2nd, because January 1st is a bank holiday where most people relax. But January 1st, that's it. I'm doing a no carb diet, and it works like a dream for the first couple of weeks, because you are significantly reducing your calories. I mean, carbohydrates account for a large amount of most of our diets, especially in the current day and age where we eat a lot of processed food. Carbs are a huge amount of diet. You cut carbs out and just start eating meat and fish and fats, you will cut a huge amount of your calories out, and so you will start losing weight. And then when you give up, which most of you, and there's going to be thousands of examples of people that have maintained a low carb diet or a no carb diet, ketogenic diet. They're hugely popular, but social media will make you think that they're so easy to maintain. They're just not. Most people who have normal lives, normal stresses, kids, busy jobs, busy lives, will not maintain a no carb diet. And it's the belief that you can is because social media has reframed the way that you're thinking. Most people just will not be able to keep it up. And you will blame it on willpower when you give up. But the reality is that there is a hormonal response to doing something like that. So when you significantly reduce your calories, so if you eliminate all carbs from your diet, you significantly reduce your calories, you also significantly reduce the amount of energy that you're intaking, because carbs provide a lot of energy. You will then lose weight. Now, when you lose weight, your body responds in kind by essentially going, what are you doing? Why suddenly are we losing so much weight so quickly? Which is why the first couple of weeks are great, because you lose weight really quickly. And it will do that by increasing your hunger, and it's a hormonal response. So it will start shooting out hormones in abundance that tell you to eat more, that make you hungrier, that will make you crave things, and it will also reduce the amount of calories that you burn, and it will do this by conserving the amount of energy that it burns. And this is this is so proven. And I know, keep an open mind, and one day if it's disproven, I will eat all my words gladly. But it's been shown in so many different studies. Like when we take a lot of information together and look at it, it's been shown. If you lose weight very quickly, your body will respond in kind by trying to go back to how it was. It's very good at that, and it will do that by pushing out hormones that will tell you to eat more, that will keep you hungrier, and it will reduce the amount of energy that it burns at rest, like without you doing anything. Forget the gym, forget exercise, forget all that. Just at rest, while you sit and do nothing, it will reduce the amount that you burn. And so that weight loss will start to slow, because you're now not. You will not burn as much, so you'll start to reduce the amount that you lose weight, the speed at which you lose weight. You may still be losing weight, but that hunger, that's gnawing at you. It's going to keep coming at you, and eventually it will overtake you, and then you will start eating again, and you're going to go for the carbs, and usually you go hard because you've been depriving yourself so much, and then you will say it's my willpower. And you're right, it kind of was, but it wasn't as well, because you really just set yourself up to fail by doing something where your body responded in kind, and that ultimately is where almost that's the vicious cycle of a diet. You start something that is really, really difficult, gets you early results, then gets you into a place where your body responds in kind, and then it makes you go back to how you ate before, and you will blame it on yourself. And it's kind of why every diet that people sell you is successful, because it's like the ultimate like snake oil salesman technique. It's like, what I give you will fail, but you'll blame it on yourself. Like, it doesn't get better than that. And so it just means that you'll go out and buy another weight diet, program, book, exercise, whatever. And when that fails, you'll blame it on yourself. It's a vicious cycle, and it works so well for an industry that can make billions off it, and not so well for you. I'll get to solution in a second, but the reality is that whilst losing weight is calories in versus calories out, and we do have to get to a place where you are eating in a calorie deficit, that process has to be as easy and manageable as possible. And usually it's by not doing it fast and not doing something drastic and not losing weight too quickly. And so I work in a place where we give GLP-1 medications, which you may have heard of, like Wegovy, Ozempic, Mounjaro, and those medications work by reducing your hunger and increasing your fullness. And we get people racing up in the dosages, and then they feel like they're getting tolerant to them, and they want to go up to another dose and a higher dose and a higher dose. And I'm like, you are losing weight so fast that it's not that you're necessarily just building tolerance to the medication. Your body is fighting back. You're getting increased hunger even though you're moving up in dose, because your body is fighting back to the speed at which you're losing weight. So even on these medications, even on GLP-1 medications, the body will fight back, and that's what's happening. You do need to create a calorie deficit, yes, but the way that you do that is super important. I'm going to get to the solution in a second, but there is a way, and it's still relatively difficult, and it still kind of fights back, but it's just nowhere near as hard as doing anything extreme. Any extreme diets, if you're someone who struggled with dieting before, if you're someone who struggled with losing weight for a lot of their adult life, if you're a person who hasn't got an abundance of time and nutritionists and personal trainers and a team behind you like celebrities do who have these incredible transformations, it's not going to work for you. Anything extreme is not going to work for you. So the reality is, back to reality, is that the food around us, especially now, increasingly is ultra processed, becoming hyper palatable, high calorie and low satiety, low fullness. And that is going to make it even harder to stick to something, because we're surrounded by an industry that wants to essentially make it easier and easier for us to eat foods that are not good for us and that make us gain weight. And so you just end up in this vicious cycle, as I said. So you can eat whatever you want and lose weight is a true statement, because technically, if you burn 1,800 calories a day and you eat 1,000 calories of chocolate a day, you will lose weight. The reality, though, and this is where it usually goes wrong online, when people say you should just eat whatever you want and lose weight. The reality is that if you do that, your body will be starved of the nutrients that it needs. It will lose weight, but how it replies in kind, as we discussed, the response that it will give in hunger, in feeling absolutely rubbish, tired, sick, unwell, ill, it won't have the nutrients and energy that it needs to help you recover, will mean that it will not take long. You will be able to do it for a short period of time, but it will not take long for your body to just give up on itself, and then you will crave food like you've never craved before, and you will start to and usually people then eat more and more of the wrong stuff, because their hunger hormones and their cravings are so bad that they don't go for healthy food, they go for the unhealthy stuff, and you will just overeat, and your body will reply to that by making you overeat. And so when people say you can eat whatever you want to lose weight, yeah, you absolutely can, but it won't work, because if you eat whatever you want and that stuff is all junk food and unhealthy food that has like empty calories, i.e. calories that don't serve a purpose in your body towards you feeling good, feeling energized, having good sleep, and reducing your chances of building immunity, reducing your chance of illness, etc., etc. If you don't have that, then your body will just reply, and you end up back into this vicious cycle of I think this is the way to describe the cycle: attempt to lower calories, lose a little bit of weight at the beginning, increase in hunger and reduction in the calories that you expend, the weight loss slows, you have hyper palatable, high calorie foods around you, you then blame the diet on willpower once you start eating, and then in a few months' time, when you gain weight back again, you start the whole cycle again. And so you can eat whatever you want and lose weight, you just won't. That's the reality. And because I don't want to make this so long and so boring, I'm kind of getting tired of hearing my own voice. Let's just move on to this. The only way I think that you can lose weight, not the only way, but like the key concepts, I guess is the best way to say it. The key concepts to losing weight healthily. And there's really kind of two solutions that I kind of narrow this down to. And one is you can count calories, and therefore you know that you are in a calorie deficit. And I don't recommend this solution, but it works, you can do it. So it allows you to eat more variable foods, you can incorporate more junk foods, I guess, because you'll be able to exactly track how much you're eating, and then you can measure your weight, and then I'm eating this many calories, I still gained weight, I need to lower the calories, I'm losing weight now, this is the amount of calories I need to eat, and then you just keep tracking your calories. Again, in reality, it gives you a lot of control. It's quite time consuming though. It kind of gets laborious, and unless you're like an athlete or someone that goes to the gym and it's part of your daily life and you've been doing it for years, or you're trying to reach a certain goal, the practicality is that over time it's not something that people do keep doing or do often enough. And when you fall off because you haven't kind of incorporated the right theory, the right concepts in the way that you lose weight, it's really easy to just go back to eating an unhealthy diet or eating in the wrong way. But counting calories does work. I mean, if you can absolutely count with precision how much you are taking in versus, and then measure that, and then know that that contributes to weight loss, you'll lose weight. However, even within that, you can eat the wrong things, right? So you can still fall prey or victim to what we discussed earlier, which is that you eat the wrong things, your body responds, you lose weight, but your body responds in kind by fighting it. And so the reality is, with anything you do now, in your weight loss journey, has to involve at some point eating foods that keep you full. The key to losing weight sustainably, the key to dieting, the key to maintaining weight loss versus just losing weight, is eating foods that have high satiety, and satiety essentially means fullness. Eating foods that keep you full, because even if you are losing weight, and that doesn't mean that you can eat nothing as long as it keeps you full, because your body will respond. But it just means that if you are eating generally, it doesn't have to be all the time, but roughly 80% of the time, foods that keep you full, you will not fall victim to your body's hunger hormones and response as much. And that just makes it so much easier to lose weight. So the reality is, in practicality, the theory will say you can eat whatever you want to lose weight. In practicality, almost all that I've seen, successful, sustainable weight loss journeys involve eating foods that have high satiety. And it's quite easy to find out what foods they are. And guess what? Most of the time, they're whole, unprocessed foods. But there is a satiety index. And I think the standard that they measure it against is like bread or something. And then they tell you all the foods that have the highest level of fullness. And maybe it's just with carbohydrates. So like obviously vegetables and things like that keep you full. Protein keeps you very full. And guess what? Snickers is not high on the satiety list. So eating a chocolate bar or something where you get a certain amount of calories for very little fullness is a recipe for disaster. So when it comes to dieting, and I'm not going to go into like a diet plan, a meal plan, or whatever now, your diet has to involve majority of foods that are going to keep you full, high satiety. And what that essentially means is low calorie density foods. So in a certain volume of food, you want the lowest calories possible. So the more that you eat, you're not consuming as many calories as a high calorie density food, which would be like a small amount of food, huge amount of calories. So think chocolate bars, this size, 300 calories, and then think like a salad bowl. And I know this is really generalized. I'm not saying you should only eat salads and you shouldn't eat any chocolate at all, but versus a salad bowl, which would be like a very high volume for like 50 calories. That's a lot of volume, low calories. That's low calorie density. Small chocolate bar, a lot of calories, high calorie density. A lot of your food has to be from low calorie density foods, and that is what then allows you to top up with a little bit of the foods that you like. So you eat a lot of whole unprocessed foods that have low calorie density. They keep you really full. You can then top up with a bite of something, or a little bit of that, or a little bit of this that you enjoy. And guess what? We're starting to build our way towards a balanced, healthy lifestyle. We don't deprive ourselves too much. We enjoy what we eat. Nothing is off limits. There's no such thing as a bad food. You eat this and that's it. You're gonna die. You have cancer. This is carcinogenic. Don't ever eat this. Don't have diet soda because we don't know what's in it. Don't have normal soda because it's got too much sugar. Just if we can focus back to high satiety, high fullness foods, majority of the time we're on our way. And so the reality is, I'm sorry that you can't just have pizza and lose weight, but the reality is you need to have foods that are high in satiety and have a low calorie density most of the time. So then you're getting you will lose weight, not as quickly as you like, because you're not going to starve yourself, because you do need to eat. You'll need to eat a lot because you'll need to be full all the time, so you'll need to eat a lot. But if it's low calorie density, you're not going to consume that many calories. But you will lose weight, but you won't get that response from your body where it absolutely fights you and it sends cravings through the roof. You're still going to get cravings, and this is where we talked about earlier with willpower. Like, there are still going to be times where you feel like, oh, you know what, I just want a burger and a pizza and chips and all the stuff, and you just go and have it, and then just reset and go back to eating how you were eating. And this is where accountability, having someone to walk you through it, having someone to discuss it with you, having someone to coach you, whatever it may be, is so important. And this is where, eating a junk meal or having a couple of days or going away and absolutely falling off the wagon and then not just giving up and going, oh, it doesn't work for me, I can't do it, is so important as well, because it is a lifestyle, it is a way of eating, it is a way of thinking, it is an identity. And that's it. That is it. That is diet. That is diet summed up. And I will try, if it's useful, I will try and go into more detail on the actual hormonal response. So how insulin works, how leptin works, how ghrelin works, how your body actually responds. If people find that interesting, I can do it. I'm not going to do it in this because it's going to be too long, maybe too boring for a lot of you, maybe too scientific, whatever. But that is diet. It's low calorie density foods that are high in satiety, in balance, nothing extreme, not completely eliminating a whole macronutrient, not doing something that is going to work for 3 weeks and then not work ever again, not falling prey to that vicious cycle, not blaming yourself on willpower when you give up again, but following a very, very, very simple theory. That's diet, and I said theory and just woke up Siri on my phone. I am going to...
One alarm, a 5:50 alarm.
Stop.
I turned off your 5:50 alarm.
I didn't even know I had a 5:50 alarm. I'm going to pause now before moving on to exercise and sleep and stress. They're going to be smaller because I think they are important, but they don't have as much value in they don't move the needle as much. And I will probably do that some other time because I'm tired of talking. But I will see you all very soon.